Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, streaming another edition of the LockerGnome Daily Report to you right now, right here. Thank you for tuning in. That's the LockerGnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short, your daily dose of geek news, reviews, and answers that you can use. Like an answer to the question, Chris, what about the CPU episodes that you had done? Where are they? Where are they going to be? Well, we've been mentioning over the past few weeks that there's going to be some rebooting going on with the various channels, except for this one, really, the Geek Lifestyles channel, which Jedi, my daughter here, appears to be happy about. She's watching me talk from across the way. Jedi, say something so that they don't think that I'm talking to myself again. Did you hear that? She's breathing. Okay, that was not Jedi. That was my wife, Diana. You can leave now, I suppose. Probably going to get boring here. So, the Geek Lifestyles channel is going to stay intact. We're still streaming TLDR. We're still streaming the CPU behind the scenes. And, of course, doing Q&A with you and me. Patrons get tons of bonuses, including being able to watch the stuff that I'm doing live on YouTube without any ads when I'm able to do just that. Everybody else, you know, if you want to support me and you don't really want to sit through an ad and you do the thing called ad blocking, I'm just saying, just become a patron and you get tons of bonuses too. It's very, very helpful. So, this is going to stay the same. This channel is going to pretty much stay the same, and of course I'm sure you'll continue to enjoy what we're doing there. Then the Pirillo vlogs are getting their own YouTube channel. That's the big news. Finally, we're moving into a different channel because it's kind of a shared experience now. It's not just me, it's myself, Diana, it's Jedi, it's our family, it's us. So we're in a separate channel. That's obviously separate from Diana's, and Diana's loving to do the cooking videos. Then, what's going to happen to the classic Chris Pirillo channel? Now, if you've heard this before, I apologize, but some people haven't, so I just want to bring them up to speed. When we do the CPU videos, which is really like, okay, it's called Chris Pirillo, you decide what the U is short for, because you genuinely are the only you I care about. But it's not just about tech. Yes, it'll have tech with it, any particular thing that I might get that I think is interesting, that I want to showcase. But every CPU video that we do is going to be edited. It's not going to be shot live, like I do the Q&A or like I do TLDR. So the classic channel is going to be edited videos that one person on my team, John Prosser, is able to do, thanks in large part to having patrons. We're building out that studio downstairs, as you've likely seen in the Pirillo vlogs. If you haven't, well, that's what's going on. I've got a lot of the tech stuff down there, but I also plan on doing other things, possibly showcasing other, things that I find fun and interesting and fascinating and useful in my world, or the things that I like. So every day it's like something that I like, something that I want to talk about, whether I'm talking about a product or a service or something. It's anything. It's Chris Pirillo universe. Chris Pirillo's universe. That works, but I still like the U. Just you define what the U is short for. So hopefully you appreciate the effort that we're putting forward. An example of what I might feature in a separate CPU episode would be this. It's a Darth Vader corkscrew, which is a gift from Jasmine, Slav, and Adele. Yeah, a Darth Vader corkscrew. And you know what I love about this? For anybody who says, oh, yeah, it's for kids. Really? Because it says, not intended for use by children. So, I'm just saying. Ow. I should not have done that. Okay. And maybe you're thinking, Chris, is that all you have? Is Darth Vader stuff to show off? No! I also have Yoda stuff. This is this year's tin for the Star Wars fans out there, filled with milk chocolate hearts. Hun, did you want to try these? I'm not going to open it just in case she doesn't want to try them. I can't imagine her not wanting to try it. Oh, yes, and by the way, obviously, I got the Darth Vader version, too. We all need something to collect, and hopefully you do. I posted something today on LockerGnome. It was a Transformers Angry Birds crossover, and someone posted a picture of their Optimus Prime collection. They collect Optimus Prime, so that was kind of neat. This is a Monday, so before I get too deep into everything else that's going on in my universe, I do want to mention that it is an AMA. I'll be getting to the questions that you answered in the open Facebook thread. Pretty soon, the rebooted LockerGnome app, available for iOS and Android, will be the facilitation point for getting the questions that you want me to answer. Some of them will be in dedicated videos. Others will be lumped together in Monday's version of TLDR, with the Friday version of TLDR, as you very well know, being the patron AMA that everybody gets to listen to. But, I got to give priority to the people who give me priority. This is what I'm saying. But I also want to say that Citrix GoToAssist, a sponsor this week, offers a secure cloud-based solution for IT and customer support professionals to provide live and unattended remote support to their employees and customers working from any computer or mobile device. For a 30-day free trial, visit gotoassist.com. I also love their GoToMeeting service. We use it to schedule the calls that we're now doing with Vlogger Fair. And for Gnome Decks, I'm working on an event for geek and nerd YouTubers or geek and nerd media people. Geek and nerd. Like, it's just general. It's across the board. Whether you love table games, whether you love Minecraft, whether you love tech, whether you love gadgets, whether you love cars. If you're a geek or a nerd, you love toys, you love geek pop culture, you love cosplay. It's specifically for the people who are on YouTube geeking out or nerding out and sharing their love and passion with everybody from around the world. There's no YouTube event just for geeks and nerds, so we're doing it. I'm rebooting Gnome Decks, which I ran for about 10 years as an event, and that's going to be the brand we're going with, short for Geek and Nerd Omni Media Expo. Gnome, Gnome, Decks, Gnome Decks, because Decks is Expo. It's kind of fun. Diana's back. That's who I'm looking at right now. All right, so the AMA thread, what?
I heard there was chocolate.
You heard there were, boy. That's how you capture Diana. I didn't even need to say chocolate. All I had to do was this. You want me to open it?
Yeah.
Okay. Figured as much. I need my Darth Vader knife, but I don't want to grab it because I chose today, of all days, to, like, clip my fingernails. I ran into, this, thank you, honey. I ran into, well, didn't really run into, we went to the market yesterday, and there was a guy who makes t-shirts and impressions of real objects like guitars and prints. Basically, these images, including Darth Vader, was on there. That's how I kind of, like, it caught my eye. He uses coffee and bleach. I posted that to my Instagram account, like a shot of what one of the t-shirts looks like. Fantastic process. I mean, that's amazing. That is creative. I love that. Okay, so here we go with the chocolating of the... Ah! Oh! Okay, I'm keeping one of these for my collection. Look at that. I'm not going to dare open... Wicked, get off the table. Let me answer questions as I'm going along. Chad Belair asks... Oh, you know this is going to be a loaded question because for his avatar, he's got an Apple logo eating a Android logo. He asks, Nexus 9 or iPad Air 2? Given that I have not tried a Nexus 9... yet, because a lot of the reviews were kind of, yeah, it's a good product, but it's a little overpriced. I don't know. I can't give you a definitive answer. The Nexus 7 is my go-to Android device, I can tell you that. My go-to tablet is most likely the iPad Air 2, a review forthcoming. Remember, the earlier TLDR, or later TLDR last week, I asked you what you'd want to see in my iPad Air 2 review. And hopefully you've been answering so that I can build the review video around the questions that you're asking. Not really a fair comparison, necessarily, but from what I've seen, including from Android fan sites, if you had $400 to spend between the two, well, of course, the iPad Air 2 would start at $500 or $499. But between the two, I would say that, I'd still give it to the iPad Air 2. I would. And, I've said many, many nasty things about iOS 8, but I have a lot of good things to say about the iPad Air 2 hardware in general. Not that the Nexus 9 is any slouch, but it's very difficult and a bit disingenuous to compare the two because they're running completely different platforms, completely different ecosystem, completely different services. If nothing, here's one of the reasons why I think the iPad Air 2 edges out the Nexus... Okay, Wicket, go ahead. Get up on the chair. That's what you wanted. I don't even know if there's a chance that people can see Wicket on my chair. You may be there's the top of Wicket's head. Can I get in my chair now? Can I continue? What I was saying is that at least with the iPad Air 2, I can run Google software. You can't necessarily do that on the Nexus because, well, it's Android. And Apple's not in the business that Google's in. This is disingenuous. And this is where it's very difficult to make comparisons. And here we go. Gonna pull out the stick. Surprised no one said, hey, Chris, why don't you pull out the stick that you beat dead horses with? Well, I don't have a dead horse. Because that would be strange. But I'm gonna beat lightly because you're here. I don't want to like bam, 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 and then she gets the idea, and then pretty soon she's running around the house. Bam, 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 bam. You're more like Pebbles. Really. You're Pebbles.
This is pretty amazing. You have all kinds of distractions and you're still going on. You're like a super dad.
Well, thank you. That's pretty amazing to hear from a super wife. Okay, sorry, my stick is in your face now. So you got to remember one very important thing. Here's the stick. Apple is a vertical player. Google's a horizontal player. Just remember, that's all you have to remember. Now, if you don't understand it, it's very, very important that you understand. Because it's not just about hardware versus hardware. It's about the services and the software. This is why Google has no problem releasing apps on any platform that it so chooses. It wants the users from Apple. In fact, I use Google on Apple's devices more than I use Apple services. I tried Siri yesterday to find, I needed to make a phone call to get some dog food for Wicket. And Wicket, I hope, he's still on the chair, by the way. I hope you're grateful. He won't eat until you shut the pantry door. Dog's got OCD. I think he gets it from me. I'll eat with the door open, though. So I had a call, and I was like, hey, could you call the pet store? And it didn't know what was going on. It's like, well, I found this web search. This might help you. Here's some pet food stores you might like. I'm like, no. Opened up Google, said the same damn thing, and Google figured it out. I love that. So Google can do that because it's a different player than Apple. Google's not in the hardware game. Apple kind of is. Okay, so Apple's not going to release its software on other platforms if it doesn't need to. So then why then, you might ask, well, why does Apple release its iTunes software for Windows? Well, because remember, what do they sell? They sell hardware, and in order to use that hardware, you need to use their software. With as many Windows users who are out there, still, to get them to buy a phone, or at that point, when it really first launched, an iPod, they had to release the software for them to buy that hardware. They haven't necessarily found that mechanism or need that mechanism with Google at this stage. That may very well change at some point in the future. I would expect to see some kind of iCloud Drive app available for Android. Maybe not immediately, hopefully after they work out a lot of the kinks, because there's a lot of kinks. Apple's a kinky company. You know what I mean? I mean, it's very kinky. Okay, so what I'm saying is it's very difficult to compare the two bits of hardware without also understanding the context of what each company does and why they do what they do. So it's not about this versus that. It's about what choice is going to work best for you. I can get to pretty much every one of my Google services from iOS. I can't necessarily get to as many of the Apple services or what Apple might provide from Android or even from Windows. That's a benefit to Apple. This is what I want Google to do more of, but they likely won't. Because remember, Google's this kind of player. Horizontal. Just like Microsoft is this kind of player. Although Microsoft is kind of in between, I would say, where Google is and where Apple is in terms of a general ecosystem. I hope that Apple gets some kind of parallel and some kind of competition at some point in the future, because it's not just about the piece of hardware. And if that's what you're looking at, just the piece of hardware, you're going to have a very difficult time making a decision. There's so much else to consider apart from the piece of hardware. Let me just get you to think that. Talking about devices is great, but you got to take them in context to the other devices and the other services. Anybody who compares them outright, it's just anymore, it's like, you know what? It's been done. And the people who do it, they're doing it, and they're not intentionally being sloppy, but they're leaving out so much of a broader picture. It's not, looking at a device itself, that's a microcosm. That you're looking like, it's very tiny little, it's one thing. Okay, it's like this. Let's pretend this tin is Apple, right? There's Apple, the company. Apple's got the iPhone, but then, to get some certain services with the iPhone, you also want to use the iCloud, and then you also want to have a Mac, because if you have a Mac and the iCloud and the iPhone or the iOS and then the iPad, and then, hang on, I dropped my iPad here. They all kind of work together and complement each other. Then you have the Apple TV, which supports AirPlay. So all these things start to complement each other in one package. That's a single ecosystem. Okay, Google, on the other hand, it doesn't have the same thing. Because this is not, number one, this is Apple. This is my example of Apple. And number two, because, Google might have Android, right? But they'll also give Android to other people. Here, you want Android here? Go ahead, have Android there. And Amazon says, I'll take Android, and they'll put it in their bucket. And then Google will say, well, we got more. And then another company will take Android and do something else with it. Or they have all these services, these Google services here, but these Google services could also work on other platforms, because Google doesn't sell the hardware. It's a different type of experience. Sorry, I don't know if that analogy really made a ton of sense, and I realize, again, I cover this topic, I swear to God, every single week, but until people stop asking this question, then I'll stop answering the way I have to answer it, because anybody else who does it in any other way, I think, is being very, very disingenuous to the people who are listening. I'm not going to reinforce delusions. Just, it's not going to happen. Andrew Ryan Leslie asks, how should I set up my garage for a workshop? Oh, Andrew. Well, it kind of depends. I have a few power tools, not many. I have a power screwdriver. That was a life changer. Of course, I keep that here in my workshop. Now, you're asking about how to set up a garage, and I think being in a garage, you're going to have a different set of tools, and not necessarily needing to keep it nice and tidy. However, I would recommend some storage options, because I do like neat and tidy. You got to know where you're going to go to get something. A pegboard so you can hang up your tools, a nice workbench, big and flat, and you know, maybe you can even have a saw of some kind, like a miter saw. You want a miter saw? You can have a miter saw if you want. I've never, in my entire life, I've never needed a miter saw that I know of. I wouldn't even know how to use one, to tell you the truth. I remember hand saws. That was the last saw that I even have an electronic saw. It's a little handheld, it hardly cuts through anything. But I have one. I have saw, just in case I need a saw. So, tools. It's there for you to build things, I'd assume, in a garage. I think in the garage you have the best chance for ventilation if you're working with paints and epoxies and liquids or any type of materials that might be noxious or poisonous. You definitely want to have airflow. I would recommend using a garage, especially if you plan on building a lot or putting things together that would require any amount of ventilation and proper airflow. Because building a workshop inside the house, if you plan on building things inside, it may get messy. Not just messy, but it may get dangerous too. So, I don't know. I've never really built a workshop in the garage before. I've got some kind of a stand in the garage that I've never really used to build anything. I'm not a builder. I'm not that type of person. But I'd imagine you would want to build things, with your workshop. Give yourself plenty of space for organization, plenty of space for tools, plenty of space for ventilation, and keep things clean too. Be very, very aware of fire hazards. Because there's a lot of liquids and stuff in the garage that isn't necessarily or aren't necessarily in your home directly, and that could cause some harm. I mean, you could get into you could seriously hurt yourself or worse, do that to somebody else if you're not too careful, especially when it comes to being aware of what you're doing, not just doing something. But I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer that question, but that's what I would think. That's how I would do it. Maybe people in the community have built their own workshop in the garage. I don't know if I'd ever want to go that far. Maybe you want to hang up a TV, speakers, have a big chair. Be like your man cave if you want, or woman cave, whichever person you are. Naomi Hunt asks, what are you most excited about being able to teach Jedi? I think I'm going to answer this question in the vlog if I haven't already done that. So Naomi, stay tuned to that. I try to answer a question every day in the Pirillo vlog, kind of make it a little more dynamic than just sharing my daily routine with everybody, which seems to be different. Some days are the same, but many days are different. Ethan Warren asks, where, who, or what do you get your inspiration from to do what you do? Where, who, or what? I think I draw inspiration from a variety of sources. I see what I can do, what I want to do, see people who are doing it, and think, how can I do the same thing? What is it going to take for me to be at a level where I'm happy in doing what I do? And I think it's that, I guess it's a form of troubleshooting, thinking through certain processes where even now, which is, I would say that this, what I'm about to tell you, is a pretty radical departure from how I'd thought in the past, with John and Liz having recently visited here over the past week or so to kind of reboot things and kind of get things back on track. I was kind of driven to start transforming a room downstairs from a former office to a production studio. And I'm doing it not because I enjoy production. I'm not. I still don't enjoy production. I don't. I'm doing the best I can with this and the audio and the microphone and the camera and everything like that. But when it comes to editing and lighting and miking, and it's so beyond me. I understand it and I value it. And I want to think, well, I do think, and I do want to think, that if I ramp up certain production values in terms of certain things that I do, like the CPU episodes that we're doing, we're shooting them, most of them in here. But when I need to do some kind of review that is much more appropriate to have hands-on with the product, I want to shoot some of it down there in the studio instead of having to reshoot things here in the office, which isn't necessarily set up for the same kind of thing. You just see how well it works. So I recognize that I need to step up my game, and I'm doing my best to do that without necessarily overstepping my boundaries. Does that mean getting a better camera? Possibly, but then you still got to figure out, well, what are you going to do with that better camera? Does that mean getting better lighting? Yes, absolutely. In fact, depending on how the new lights work, because John hasn't told me what I should be getting downstairs. I have some ideas. I may have a light stationed here in the office permanently, like right behind the camera, like shooting down in some capacity, such that when I'm doing these videos, they're even better lit than they are right now. So I know, and I draw inspiration when I see other people and what they do, and I think, wow, that's amazing. But a lot of it's lost on me. I care, but I don't care at the same time. I don't geek out over a lot of new hardware like a lot of geeks and nerds might. I don't. Like, I was lamenting the fact that last night I was looking at a tech news site, and the top tech news, like the top 5 stories were stories about cars. I'm like, I like cars, but I don't love them. I use cars, and I understand there's a lot of tech in cars, but I just don't. I enjoy some of the tech, especially when it benefits me. I love talking about that kind of stuff, but otherwise, I'm not really the kind of guy who's like looking for all sorts of information on cars left and right. That may change at some point. I don't know. But I think I just draw it from everywhere. I look at what someone else is doing, and if I think I'd like to do the same thing, that's inspiration. And, I look to other people doing things to draw inspiration from. For stuff that's out there. I mean, usually online, someone will tweet something, someone will post something. I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. That's pretty cool. And then I kind of take it and try to make it my own. Like, well, how would Chris Pirillo do something like that? And it's the best that I could possibly do. But I take inspiration from a lot of people. Not just the people that have some amount of notoriety. Many of whom have said, well, Chris, it's only because of the things that you were doing that I'm doing the things that I'm doing. I'm like, then how come you are so much better than me? Like, it's depressing and uplifting at the same time. I've done that. I've bled inspiration whether I meant to or not. Well, that's kind of cool. I like doing that though. Joshua Wilson, do you like being a geek? Hey, I like being myself. I really would be very sad to hear if you weren't happy in being yourself, whoever you were. Tony Piffner, how's the family? They're great. Frankie L. Arma Secreta asks again. Yes. Every week. Fernando Javier Fuenmayor Miranda, how do you manage the feed time of your child? Your wife give her breast or formula for baby? It's a bit personal. We've kind of addressed that in previous vlogs, so I'm not going to dive too deeply into that. Brian D. Roberts asks, as I get a direct message from Liz, who apparently is halfway to her destination. She couldn't be home yet. Maybe she is. She's got internet access on the plane. What a world we live in. He asks, how do you plan to save for Jedi's future? Oh, that's a good question. I do think about this, and a lot of what I do is, yes, done to absolutely pay the bills and to pay other people for their services, John, Liz, Bob, etc. I have partnerships that help us accelerate things as well, including a pending reboot of the LockerGnome store. I don't know if you guys knew that. The shop. I've got to change a few settings. It's one of the other things that I have to do on this wild Monday. But my plan is really, to have myself in a position where I will not be a burden to her, and then I can give her the tools and experience such that she's going to be able to make decisions for herself. I don't know where I sit in terms of the relevance of an advanced education at this stage. So as much as I know it's important to start saving for your child's college education, I think, and maybe this is it's a gamble, but I think in the coming years, the role of those institutions is going to change dramatically. I'd be surprised if she's raised in the way that I'd like to raise her, surrounded by knowledge and wisdom, in empowering her with the ability to learn. She'll know more at an earlier age than I would have known at a later age, because of the resources that she has at her disposal. And I'm excited about that. So how I'm planning for her is to be able to not burden her with anything that might have been a burden to me, to teach her how to stay debt-free or as debt-free as possible, to teach her, the value of self-reliance and not ever getting into a position where she's trapped in every or any possible way. So, financially, I think it does boil down to just staying out of debt, living within, means, or stretching in ways that you can stretch, and taking risks and taking gambles, but doing so in a calculated fashion. As I said, this year we're doing 2 types of events. We got Vlogger Fair for the family type of vloggers, which we are, and then Gnome Decks, which is going to be more for the geeky, nerdy kind of media people, YouTubers out there. And I just want to say YouTube because a lot of people are popular on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and they don't use YouTube at all, but they're still very, 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 very famous in geek circles. YouTube isn't the end all and be all for anything related to geekiness. That's for sure. Mike Moran asks, I haven't seen any replies yet, Chris. Well, that's because I don't answer the questions in the thread. I thought we were kind of up to speed on that. I do it here. I don't know what to tell you. Seems like I have to address that every week. There's a screw missing. And we always go back and we put the video link that we're doing right now back into the thread so that people know that their questions got answered, or at least attempted to be answered. Ben Kirk, thank you, answers Mike's question there. Anthony Blando asks, did you like being a Boy Scout? Not really. It bored me. Fishing, camping, outdoors. I mean, we had indoor stuff, but it depends on your troop. It depends on your leader. It depends on if your friends are in it or the people that are in it, with you, or, people that you want to be around. I think for me, the tops was Webelos. I enjoyed Cub Scouts. I enjoyed Webelos. And I think it's probably because of my parents' involvement, honestly. I think that was a large part of why I enjoyed that part of my life. But once I got to Boy Scouts, it was a completely different world, and I just realized, the fun's gone. It's not interesting to me. Nothing that, I understand the value of social services and helping others and learning and knowledge and everything, but everything was just so like, I just don't like this. This is not me. Even that at that young of an age, I was not a big outdoorsman. I was a great indoorsman, that is for sure. Jackson Domino. What is the best movie in 2014? I answered that question already, so you can watch that video. Michael Larson. Jedi's full name. Jedi. It's short for Judy, Elia, Diana, and the I, individual, ice cream, Ichabod Crane. The I can be anything Jedi wants it to be because she is her. She can say, I am Jedi. So it's very recursive that way. So she's named after pretty much every primary maternal unit in our immediate family, and I think that's kind of neat. That's her full name. The I, we don't know. The I'm going to tell her, like, you can make the I short for whatever you want, and that can change. You don't have to lock it down into a certain thing. It can be what you want it to be. You can be who you want to be. Don't be defined by somebody else. So I think it's kind of neat. It's a geeky approach to a name, or I thought. Stephanie Ann asks, can I have $5? Yes, you can, but you're probably going to have to get it from somebody else because I'm not giving you any. Thread Lamont asks, ignoring the bugs in iOS, well, that's kind of difficult to do. What parts of the design do you dislike specifically that you would have liked changed? Flat design either works or it doesn't. And to me, I know people are not going to believe that I'm saying this. I think Microsoft nailed it with Windows 8. I like the UI of the touch interface on the modern screen. I love the interface that Microsoft has pushed out with Windows 8, Windows 8.1. On the new stuff, I'm talking about the modern interface, aka the Metro interface that they can't call Metro anymore. I'm not talking about the user experience. Remember, there's a difference between UI and UX. Hello, I beat this horse to death so many times. I won't do it again. So, to me, I just don't think Apple did flatness right. They tried, but it just there's certain times that it just doesn't work, and then elements get sloppy. Like I'm looking at, like, I've got a calendar appointment or something, or like something pops up, and I've got my calendar icon at the top of the screen. The 1 or the 2 number in the top corner overlays like when I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm like, why is it? It just looks, it's flat, but it looks sloppy. It's like, imagine like you've got color forms and you've drawn out a picture of a sailboat, and then over that picture of a sailboat, you put a picture of a heart or something, and then another picture over here of a car. It just they need to be separated. And I'm not saying swing the other direction either, but it's not refined at all. I think the thought was there, but I think the execution was rather poor, and I see that kind of sloppiness throughout the OS. I think they made a few design mistakes, quite a few actually, and I hope they understand that iOS 9 can take what they've built and just refine it. I'm a huge fan of drop shadows, and if done the right way, I think you could create a very compelling experience on a smartphone. And I just haven't seen that ethos in the UI of iOS 7 or 8. 8 is slightly better than 7, but I still see so much sloppiness. Oh. It's gag inducing sometimes. I'm like, really? This is the best you could do? Yikes! Because that's what Apple has. It's design ethos, and now they're getting schooled by Microsoft and Google. They're doing things that, we don't expect them to do. That I would easily call out any company who's making those mistakes. This is what drives me nuts when anybody says, you're a fanboy. Really? Like, do you not actually listen to everything I say, or you just listen to one thing I say? So, I think that they can take what they've got with an ethos, because I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, sadly. I wish they would reboot it. I really wish they would reboot it. And just refine it. And clean up the sloppiness such that it just doesn't feel like it's elements here, and then font sizes, and then icons. That's kind of what, when I see iOS 7 and 8, that's what in my head I'm thinking. Michael Echeverria Jr. asks, are you back in the workshop? Indeed I am. I was only down in the studio for a day or two as they were working on the ceiling here from the water damage earlier this summer. What? I got a hole in my shirt. This sucks. I'm not going to throw it away, though. I love this shirt. Bernard McDowell asks, Chris, have you been talking for a half hour? Well, he didn't ask that, but I just noticed. Yes, I guess I have. Are you adding more lights to your ceiling, or was there some problem that needed to solve before it became a bigger problem? That was the water seeping leakage thing that I think has been effectively addressed. Theoretically, I don't know how well they did it, because I noticed the damage here in the workshop, and I don't know if it was patched effectively, so I'm a little concerned about it. I hope they don't have to come back. And if they do, I'm going to be very, 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 very upset, because they should have taken care of that the other day. There are a few questions here, some of which I think I'm going to be placing in the vlog. One of them, at least. I see someone asking, has being a father made your view of the world change? I'm going to answer that question, Jeremy Flores, on a vlog, if you don't mind. I'll take screen caps and put it in the vlog. So, since I have been talking as long as I have, I'm going to go ahead and start winding down, just like you would say on Valentine's Day, which I realize is about a month away or so. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you're loving and appreciating the things that we're doing for you on a daily basis, me and my team and I. Sorry. We're going to do a hangout now with the patrons, and hope you can join us there. That is a patron exclusive. Some of the hangouts go public, especially when I'm doing a brick build. I've thought about doing TLDR, and I wish if I had someone in the office with me, the workshop here with me, it'd be easier to build a Lego set while at the same time answering questions, like a small Lego set like this, like a 2-in-1 kind of thing. It'd be fun. I'd like to do that. Maybe even with, this would take, the 234, the Phantom, this would take about half hour to an hour, so this would take maybe 15-20 minutes, I think. About the length of a TLDR, a little Lego set. I don't know, I'm throwing things out there, just mixing it up, trying new things, geeking out with everybody. Thank you for your time and your attention, but at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.